Hello and welcome one and all to episode 1 of Hazbin Hotel. The pilot for the show came out a little over 4 years ago, and I remember watching it the day it came out. And while I didn't think I would be reacting to it on YouTube when it came out, I have been looking forward to it since then. But here's the thing about reacting to it on YouTube. This show is not exactly known for being PG. And YouTube is known to have some bad tendencies when it comes to visibility with videos that have a lot of swearing and profanity and that kind of stuff in it, which is why I personally avoid swearing in my videos. Which put me in a bit of an awkward spot with wanting to react to this. I want to react to the series, but I don't want to intentionally hurt my channel, so stick around till the end of the video when I talk about what it is that I do want to do in order to try to get the best of both worlds. Also, while swearing may negatively impact this video's place in the YouTube algorithm, you may be able to help me counter that by liking, commenting, subscribing, all that good stuff. But with all that out of the way, I am excited to start the show, so let's go ahead and get into it. I hope you've made your reservations because it's time to check into the Hazbin Hotel, starting in 3, 2, 1, go. A little bit loud. Okay, should be good now. An Amazon series. Oh boy. We just starting in with an OP. I'm definitely not used to that. Anime love to do their cold opens for episode 1. Jazzy? Is that it? What? What an opening. Okay. Why do I feel like I'm looking at Homestuck? Was. This is this is actually not that inaccurate. Wait. Okay, now things are sounding a little off. Well, hold on. I'm gonna need to brush up on my Christian origin stories. Because this Lilith part isn't ringing a bell. Yeah, that part doesn't surprise me. Jesus! Maybe I should have... poor choice of words. Hi, Charlie. That was an external monologue? Oof. Was? Oh. Okay. I was initially unsure of where this took place in relation to the pilot. Uh, Delusional. Yeah. Really selling this whole idea, aren't you, Alistair? Really knows how to sell the place. Alistair, my guy, you ooze charisma, but marketing is not your department. One? Just a bad. Thank you, Baggy. Not sure about some of these camera angles. What? Why did? Oh dear. He's got a point. Famous. Yeah. That again, he's kind of got a point. I was expecting a line just like that, so I'm glad that Angel delivered. Okay. I'm sure you could. Oh dear. Defeats the purpose. I noted. Yep. It, it's gonna be all day with him. Yeah. No innuendos with that one. Just straight up. Oh? Yeah, what? Calm yourself. All right, first musical number. Wait, please hold. Please. No. Okay, nope, she's off. Could be. I she's gone. I feel like this is the closest so far this episode that the vibe has felt to the pilot. While it didn't feel like a sharp departure up to this point, I think that you could definitely you could definitely feel the difference between this and the pilot. Which this early on, hard to say is good, bad, and different, but definitely noticeable. Music just changed drastically. Wow. Just yeah, nope. Oh, this ought to be good. Anyone? What is this? Heaven's consulate to hell? It straight up is. That thing said embassy. They might have mentioned embassy before, but seeing the actual like seeing this actual basically government set up building here is oh, this guy is who who in the hell in the heaven are you? You ribs? Not actually here. Yeah. How how is this an angel? Oh, this ought to be good. Oh dear. You needed a script for that? Something tells me this isn't in the script. Oh, okay. Cut. It was so basic. Whoops. No. Oh, yikes. That's that actually kind of explains a lot. As in the atom. Yeah. Okay. Me and Charlie, same page. No. Doesn't seem like that either. Playing to his ego. Nice, nice. Yep. She clever, clever. God. Yeah. She's gonna have a rough time. Oh dear. This is not nifty. She's gone. Okay. Are you okay, girl? Just just ignore him. I'll figure it out. Defend it. We just gonna ignore that shadow? Yeah, we're just gonna ignore that shadow. Good job. Oh, don't do that. She got a point. Oh dear, nope. This guy. Gotta love a trickster god. Gotta be one of my favorite kinds of characters, trickster gods. Which Alistair very much falls into the category of. Oh my god, he's still going. That doesn't sound like a lot. Knows, yes. Cares, definitely doesn't. Rude. Oh, Christ. I, again, poor choice of terms on my part. In your life, maybe not. Jesus. Again, my bad. Who is this though, by the way? Oh, here she goes again. Sick visuals. Ew, that's concerning to say the least, I have to say. It this whole musical number from Adam here. Ooh. Is really making me wonder to what extent we're gonna get to see other angels. Like, are they all like this? What? Whoa! Massive demonetization right there. Rip to reactors big enough to get paid for their videos. It ain't me, but C word is an instant demonetization on YouTube. Maybe wait until you see it. What? Is that her new voice? Oh, that's a big move up. Cutting that time in half. Who is this? Can't risk them catching on. Okay. That was a lot. I also didn't notice. I didn't notice until Adam started singing that it was Alex Brightman from the Beetlejuice musical. Loved him in the Beetlejuice musical. And so yeah, that's cool. I don't think I recognize any of the other new VAs. So yeah, that was a lot. That was definitely a lot. It was a lot of fun though. I definitely do feel, I don't know, I'll be curious to watch some like other reactions and like read comments and stuff to see what other people are thinking, but I definitely feel as though this feels different than the pilot. It definitely, while it's obviously the same characters, same premise for the most part. Um, yeah, to me the vibe just feels a bit different than the pilot, and at the moment I'm not jiving with it quite as much, but I'm still enjoying it. And yeah, I'm curious to see more, particularly because they have to more so deal with having an actual plot now. That's one thing with a pilot is it's a lot easier to kind of enjoy that kind of chaos and frenetic energy, frantic energy, and whatnot because you don't have to tie yourself too much to like a cohesive story and like plotting out future events and things like that. It's a little bit easier to just kind of let things be a bit more freeform. But even still, pilot definitely still felt like it led into this first episode. And in the same kind of vein as feeling like the energy of the show isn't necessarily the same in this first episode, I did definitely notice the difference in the voices. And for the most part, it's not too jarring. I do feel like, though, Angel Dust, not necessarily the way the voice sounds is different. but I think some of the dialogue is maybe, I don't know if it's the dialogue itself or more so the delivery. I feel like there weren't enough lines where I noticed it so sharply that I can make a strong determination as to whether it was, if it's more so one or the other as of yet. But there are definitely some lines where it feels like, again, I don't know if it's the VA or the show itself trying too hard. I like the toots. I think you might have noticed me react a little bit in my face when he said that earlier. I think that was the line in particular, where I was just like, that didn't sound quite right. And it's not because like, oh, toots is offensive. No, I mean it didn't sound right coming from the character. And so I'll be interested to see if Angel Dust in particular sounds a bit more natural going forward in the series. But overall, I had fun with the show, and I'll be curious. Yeah, I'm just curious to see how things progress in the. I'm curious to see how things progress with the show going forward because it could continue feeling similar to this episode. It could at times feel more like it did in the pilot, or depending on what kind of direction we go in, because there's a bunch of different ways we could take this for the future episodes, especially if we're going to be doing things a bit more episodically, or if everything is going to feel like it's, main story, so to speak. There's a lot of different ways they could go, and depending on how they choose to take it, could heavily influence how the show feels. And again, I know I'm talking a lot about like how things feel and how things vibe and whatnot, as opposed to more like concrete, I guess you could say, analysis or criticism or anything like that. But it is what it is. I don't think that every show can be looked at through the same lens, and especially with like, again, something like this where you had a web pilot released and then later on down the line it got turned into an actual TV series. I think it's a little, I think it makes it more okay to just be kind of looser with assessing the show and just kind of talking about it. So yeah, that's gonna be it for, I think, commentating on this. Oh, one other thing. During the songs, I barely talked at all, and I think that's probably going to stay that way going forward. Just because I think it feels really weird to try to talk through and commentate through the songs. Um, so the songs are most likely going to be largely cut out of the YouTube reactions and are going to be most likely heavily, or if not only, viewable here on Patreon. But yeah, I don't know. It just because there are so many things to be paying attention to during the songs, like not just because it's not just the lyrics and what, like there's the lyrics, there's what's happening, there's the music. There's just I feel like there's like this show again, it already has a lot going on, and during the songs, I think in particular, there's a lot that they are trying to convey in those musical numbers, and so trying to absorb all that while giving, and it's also the case that while there is a lot going on and a lot happening during those moments, it's also the case that in a sense there's not a lot going on insofar as there's not really things going on that are worth mentioning for the most part, or if they are, they're big enough that maybe I want to talk about them later. uh but yeah, I don't know, it'll depend from song to song how much I do and don't want to talk about things, but I think that kind of I think that it'll probably be safer to expect me to be not talking so much during those moments going forward. So yeah, I think that's going to be it for that. All right, I think that is everything I'm going to say for the YouTube version of this video. If you want to see more, you can check out the full length reaction on Patreon. It is going to be freely available. You don't have to actually pay to become a patron. You can just go to my Patreon, linked in the description below, and watch the video. You can watch the actual reaction portion with a timer to sync up with on your own device, or you can just skip to the end to see thoughts, opinions, all that good stuff. But before we go, I did mention at the beginning of the video that I was going to address how I intend to handle this series on YouTube, Patreon, and how I'm going to strike that balance considering YouTube's what is essentially censorship. The plan for Patreon is going to be the same as any other series. I'm going to react, I'm going to provide thoughts at the end of the episode, I'm going to upload it to Patreon, there's going to be a timer, there's none of the actual show to avoid DMCA. But here on YouTube, in addition to this first episode of the season, I want to upload either a reaction to the final episode or a sort of supercut of a handful of reactions from each episode throughout the entire season. Let me know in the comments down below which of those two things you would prefer to see in addition to this first episode. I could see reasons to do both. If the final episode ends up being something super climactic, then maybe people want to see more of that final episode. But if there's a bunch of super entertaining moments from various episodes throughout the season, then maybe people would rather see that video that's basically just a highlight reel. Regardless of which of those two options I do end up going with though, if you follow on Patreon, you will be able to continue to watch each of the episodes full-length reaction. Again, timer, not episode on screen to avoid DMCA, but if you want to see reactions to the entire episode, just specific scenes, or just get thoughts as I progress through the series, you'll be able to access all of that for free on the Patreon. So again, comment your preference on what you would like to see for that second video down below, as well as anything else you want to talk about related to this video and this reaction in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, thumbs up, it really helps on the videos, especially ones like this that I kind of expect to not get a lot of traction. And until I see you in the next one, take care. Bye-bye. Okay, after taking some time and rewatching the episode, I've got a couple more thoughts that I want to make for the Patreon before I finish up and move on to the next one. I mentioned during the episode that I want to see more of the angels, and that's not just because I want to see like different characters or different character designs, though the angels do have some interesting character designs that I do kind of want to see more of, but it's also because like Adam's obviously a dick, and I'm okay saying that because we're here on Patreon. Adam's obviously a dick, and the angels don't seem, at least the two that we've met, don't seem like, you know, the greatest, most moral of individuals. And I kind of want to see not just more angels as individuals, but I also want to see kind of like heaven's decision making and like the machinations that are going on and taking place in heaven that's kind of being driven by these angels. Because with what we've been presented so far, something that I could see them doing that I really don't want to see is basically one of these like tropey cliche situations where like the bad guys, you know, the denizens of hell, the demons, like even though they engage in like debauchery and sin, they're like fine people, morally speaking, whereas the good guys, the angels up in heaven, are just absolute fucking terrible people, which is again, that's kind of what we're seeing with Adam, like in his own word, cunts. um, and yeah, I don't really want to see that. I don't know about y'all, but I've seen that a bunch already. I've seen that time and again, and I don't want to see it here. I just feel like that's kind of boring, frankly. Something that's a bit more positive is the characters' facial expressions with the animation is still overall pretty good. And I really like that personally because for me, the expressiveness of the faces kind of helps to offset the sort of discord that's happening in my mind. Going from the old voices of the pilot to the new episodes in the new voices in the series proper, by making the characters just sort of feel more whole. Actually, if y'all don't mind, I'm actually just going to go ahead and it's going to mess up my lighting a little bit, but I'm just going to go ahead and pull my notes in front of me. And I usually try to just sort of, you know, talk to the camera or talk at whatever. Uh, but for these thoughts that I made specifically after like going back and taking notes, I'm just going to go ahead and like read through my notes if that's fine with y'all. um, so Charlie and Baggy spent a lot of time this episode not really being directly together. Like in the beginning of the episode, they were together while they were like talking with Alistair, and then they had their moments throughout. But for the most part, they didn't spend a lot of time directly together. And something that I'm going to be keeping my eye on as we go forward in this series is how their relationship in particular develops. Because in the pilot, while the relationship was relatively subtle, I personally really loved how Vaggie, a character who's basically portrayed as being a no-nonsense bitch, frequently softened her expression and smiled when either a little physical touch from Charlie and or when seeing Charlie like whimsically light up talking about like positive futures and stuff. And so yeah, I really want to see that relationship dynamic that they had continue. I hope that that's not something that kind of got lost in the transition from the pilot to the main series, just because I think that that was a really sweet dynamic that they had initially. In a similar vein regarding characters, while I feel like the pilot was much more about the entire cast, in this first episode, I much more feel as though I'm watching Charlie as the main character who is having to carry my enjoyment of the show. Which is not inherently bad, but if the series is going to continue to separate her from several other members of the supporting cast in order to run their A plots and B plots, it could potentially start feeling really bad really quickly. Yeah, I definitely felt that in this episode. It really felt like Charlie was like the main character, and not necessarily the only character with depth, but the only character with like real depth, like real complexity and nuance. I'm particularly talking about Angel Dust here when I say that some characters really felt kind of shallow and one-dimensional in this first episode, and that feels really bad. I think that they went from a pilot where each of their characters, like, they had their shticks, but they were at least like actual characters. And now in episode one, they're just kind of meh. They're sort of bland, and just like not really catching my interest, frankly. The main thing that kept my attention through this episode's B plot was Alistair because I really like the idea of his character. Yeah, I mentioned during the episode that I really like trickster god type of characters. That's one of my favorite archetypes. Um, and you see those kinds of characters in a lot of shows. And I mean, honestly, like, just to bring up one example, like Bill Cipher in Gravity Falls. Bill Cipher was like the reason I watched Gravity Falls. I know that some people absolutely love Gravity Falls. I think that comparing it to some of the contemporary, like super popular cartoons of that time, it's just not as good, frankly. I did not care for Gravity Falls nearly as much. I liked it, but I didn't care for it nearly as much as some of its popular contemporaries. The only reason that I was able to kind of carry myself through the end of Gravity Falls was because of how much I liked Bill Cipher as a character. However, in this case with Alistair, his presence, just his presence in the show, that can only go so far to carry my enjoyment of and entertainment of the entertainment I find in these B plots if they're going to be kind of as mediocre as this one was. And I do think that this B plot was rather mediocre, especially because when you stop to think about this B plot in particular, if you like it doesn't take too long to analyze or think about it to realize that like it didn't matter. It didn't end up meaning anything at all. Like, what was this episode's B plot? It was about reshooting the commercial, right? And this commercial didn't even end up playing. It didn't even end up airing. And like not only did it not show in the show, but like we the audience didn't even get to see it either. So it really just feels like that whole everything that happened was kind of unnecessary because like there wasn't like big character moments that happened really. Like the biggest thing that happened during that B plot was the deal that Vaggot made with Alistair. But because of how minor it was, like I don't see that becoming like it might come back up. It might come back up briefly to be like, oh wait, we can't shoot another commercial? No, because I told Alistair that we wouldn't. Like, but it's not really gonna be like a big deal. And there were no like big character interactions or anything. So it was a very nothing B plot. It really was. And I just think that that feels kind of bad. Like maybe in the next episode we'll get to see that commercial, but the way that it was presented in this episode, it really felt like that was the singular airing of it that got interrupted by the breaking news. And that the kind of point was it being interrupted was like a punchline and the end of that sort of thread. So I don't expect we're really going to be. I don't expect we're going to see it. I don't expect we're really going to talk about it too much in the next episode or beyond. So it didn't amount to much, which feels bad in my opinion. Regarding how I keep mentioning the feel or vibe of the show being different, I think on rewatch what sticks out to me is that the pacing feels slower than the pilot, which naturally leads to a less chaotic impression and atmosphere, even when some scenes are still absolutely crazy. Yes. So yeah, I definitely noticed that, especially in the first probably like half or so of the episode. Um, Honestly, I think most of the episode, probably I would say outside of the musical numbers, most of the non-musical portions and parts of the episode just do feel slower, I think, than the pacing that there was in the pilot. And again, that's not something that is in and of itself bad, but it does lead to a bit of a less of the kind of chaos energy that I found so appealing from the pilot. And also, kind of to that point, and also dovetailing a bit, I think, with the previous point I made regarding certain dialogue choices, I think that some of the sort of edgy and offensive humor just doesn't feel as natural here as it did in the pilot. That is to say, in the pilot, it very much felt like the crazy mayhem transpiring was just the world such as it exists in that setting. But here in episode one, there are times where it definitely feels like these things are happening just for the sake of shocking or surprising the viewer, almost as if they were added on later as an afterthought rather than arising as a natural consequence of hell being hell. Yeah, so again, I mentioned that. So when I talk about a dovetailing with the previous point, I mentioned earlier how like especially some of Angel Dust's lines, they just don't really feel natural, and I'm not sure if it was like the VA wasn't delivering it well, or if there was something with the direction, or just the dialogue itself as written. But it just Angel Dust feels a little weird in this episode, and yeah, and like even him as a character, like I get it. He's a slut. He's a hooker. He's a whore. Like I get it. I get the joke. I get the gimmick. But that was almost all that we got from him this episode. There were very few lines where that wasn't just like his entire personality. And I feel like Angel Dust in the pilot was more than that. Maybe not much more than that because we only got, the pilot with him, but he still felt like more than that. And just yeah, just some of the scenes just really they don't feel organic. It feels like, oh, we're going to throw this at you just for the sake of throwing this at you. And this is definitely a very subjective sort of assessment, I think you could say. But that was how at least I felt watching this. I still had fun with it, but yeah, I definitely felt like it didn't feel as natural as it did in the pilot. And again, that's something that I'm just going to again, I'm still liking the show. I'm going to continue watching the show, of course. But that's something that I'm going to be trying to like pay attention to as the show goes on is like, are these like crude things that are happening? Are they because the characters and creatures that exist in this world are just like that? Or are we getting these moments because, oh, it's been 5 minutes, we need to throw something zany at you to keep you on your toes or something? Like, I don't know. I hope this is making sense. I hope that people can at least kind of see where I'm coming from with this, and it doesn't seem like I'm just criticizing this for the sake of criticizing it. I think final note, and I made mention of this during the episode, and I think already briefly post episode, the musical numbers are very interesting. Not just like the lyrics, but like the animation, some of the art that happens during some of the sequences that happen during the musical numbers, during the songs, are just super interesting and very like there's a lot of imagery at play, and it's just kind of very evocative and enjoyable. And it's probably again, it's arguably what feels the most like the pilot, which is really cool. I think it's also interesting that both of the songs we got in this episode, it kind of felt like they had two parts, right? Am I the only one who feels that way? Like I mentioned during Charlie's song, I think I mentioned like, oh, the music just sharply changed. And then during Adam's song, I don't know if I necessarily made mention of it when it happened, but I think it was like I think it was when he summoned the second set of like the golden angels or whatever, but like there was very definitively a point where like the music shifted, right? And yeah, I think the kind of point of talking about all of this right now is just to say I'm interested to see how they make use of the songs and musical numbers going forward, because it's not necessarily that they felt out of place, but again, just the energy that comes from those parts of the episode feels distinctly different, I think, than the other parts of the episode. And so I'm just curious how that balance will or will not continue going forward. If you sat through those extended thoughts, opinions, and ramblings in the Patreon version of this episode, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Feel free to comment something down below to engage with any or all of these different ideas that I put forward. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think that I'm talking out of my ass. Um, I if it seems like I'm complaining a lot, then hi, you must be new here. I really enjoy media. I don't critique it for the sake of hating on it. I really don't. I just like to critique media because it's how I like to engage with media. I do really like to talk about things that I like about shows, but I also don't think that talking about things that I don't like about shows or that I think feel weird or awkward or that I thought could be better, I don't think that that detracts from the enjoyment that you can or appreciation that you can have of the show. So I tend to do that a lot. um, and so yeah, feel free to engage with any of those ideas that I put forward. Any other thoughts that you might have regarding this first episode that maybe I didn't address that you think I would like to engage with, let me know those in the comments down below. But yeah, until I see you in the next one, take care. Bye bye.